Hello, friends, and welcome to our pre-Gemini Full Moon webinar. Some of you know we have been working for the last 3 nights here, nights here in Finland, working on the 3 meditations on the 3 keynotes, which are sounded by the hierarchy and by the Christ before the actual Gemini full moon. And those are the keynotes of love, resurrection, and contact. Now today we deal a bit more with the planets, and let's see, the actual full moon I think will be in about 7 hours and 24 minutes from now. It's 4:24 and 55 seconds a.m. in Greenwich Mean Time, and here in Finland, 7:24. Well, it's such a rich sign. You know, in the Labors of Hercules, it is probably the longest narrative that the Tibetan wrote in the language of the old commentary. This narrative has 5 different tests until Gemini, the server, finally learns how truly to serve his brother and ultimately to serve the One. The first test in Gemini relates to Nereus, the intuition, to which the Gemini subject Hercules is deaf at first. Then comes Antaeus the serpent glamour, and he manages somewhat to deal with glamour. That's the emotional plane particularly. And then comes Bucyrus the false teacher. And so the mental plane is involved as well, and he is chained, Hercules is chained to the altar for a year. One wonders if that year is not a lifetime. Finally, he realizes his condition and frees himself and chains instead Bucyrus to the altar and gives him the opportunity to learn where he had deceived others. Then comes the freeing of Prometheus. Hercules is so eager to get the golden apples, you know. Speed is one of those factors for him. He wants to move quickly, but he hears the woeful condition and cries of Prometheus and diverts his search to help Prometheus. In a way, he's freeing his soul, freeing the soul from enchainment in matter. And then he's just about there to get those golden apples, which he has been told can be found on a tree near a mountain, the mountain of initiation, when he notices the great giant Atlas struggling with the world. Of course, that's the hierarchy, isn't it? And so he stops, instead of going to the golden apples, he stops to serve. And he helps Atlas with his burden, the hierarchy, the planetary logos, and then the burden rolls off him and the apples are his. So we learn this lesson of service in Gemini, from I serve myself to I serve my brother, and finally until I serve my one, or the one, excuse me. Here we see the Jafra illustration, and also the banner for Gemini with the 3 rulers in order. That is Mercury, the exoteric ruler, Venus, the esoteric, and the Earth, the hierarchical ruler. And the real mantra is not C, of course. It's I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self I grow and glow. And we've been talking about the identification with the higher of the pairs of opposites, which we more authentically are than the personality nature with which we have been so long identified. It's a sign of duality, the sun and the moon, the female and the male, the caduceus winding here in the center until the kundalini reaches its peak and illumination breaks forth. There is above what we might call the divine hermaphrodite. It's the soul itself, the union of male and female. And we are moving from this animal-like intelligence where the baboon is contemplating the world to a celestial intelligence which in fact unites the pair of opposites. Here are the two pillars in a way of Gemini, the pillars of Hercules through which every candidate must pass. And the unicorn and the lion, well, I don't know if we agree where they're put here perhaps, but the story of the lion and the unicorn represents the contrast between Leo and Capricorn, or really between the king of beasts, the personality, and eventually the victorious unicorn, the soul, who blinds the lion to its own egotism. So then the sense of true identity can emerge. This is the sign of the union of the angel and the animal, and the product is the human being. And we have connected with Gemini, I would say, a very human sign. Individualization took place in relation to this sign. Also, Leo was involved and Sagittarius was involved as well, and probably Capricorn for the solar angels. We have here the beautiful illustrations of Francis Donald, and thank you, Francis, for sharing these with us. We have one here. Let's see. Yes, this is one illustration that we'll talk about in a minute. It looks rather like the communion between Castor and Pollux, the radiant brother in the solar position, a kind of an anticorona, and that radiant brother, you see that stream of eyes that is here, right? All of these are a stream of eyes. I recognize my other self, and this is the other self, the self that we are not really, but the self that we seem to be. And here, let's just take a look at this one. Francis's notes on this, that Gemini rules the hands. Oh, excuse me, that's the other one. It's this one. It's called Castor and Pollux, the archetypal Gemini twins, and here he discusses that the solar angel, identified as Pollux, which is really a great supergiant star, collects himself, scatters not his force, but in meditation deep communicates with his reflection, and the reflection is the personality. Really, as we've been discussing, Castor is a series of 6 stars, 3 pairs of doubles. It represents the not-self in a way, and ultimately Pollux represents the monadic self. When the shadow, Castor, hath responded, in meditation deep the work proceedeth, the lower light is thrown upward, the greater light illuminates the threefold personality, and the work of the 4 proceedeth. You'll recognize this as the very first rule in a treatise on white magic. And so to bring a true relationship between Castor and Pollux is one of the great objectives of a treatise on white magic. The secret doctrine, a quote here, the legend of Castor and Pollux is concerned with the mortal half of man, the personality, and the immortal part, the ego or spiritual individual. This is Pollux, while Castor represents the personal, mortal man, an animal of not even a superior kind when unlinked from the divine individuality. It's so interesting that in astrology, when we study the fixed stars, generally Castor has a better reputation than Pollux. In other words, it's a bit easier on the personality, and Pollux, sort of the star of pugilists and those who are in combat, represents the effect of the soul upon the personality and the kind of friction that it can cause. Today we have been celebrating the World Invocation Day, and probably a number of you have been involved in that, and certainly the energy has been beautiful and strong. You know, you could feel yourself supported by the constant invocation all around the world, and I suppose it's, in a way, it's still going, you know, for you. I mean, here we're almost at midnight, but I like to think of World Invocation Day archetypally as the 12 hours before the Gemini full moon and the 12 hours after. Francis goes on to say that the organization of the world religions are involved here so that their out-of-date theologies may be offset in order that the churches may eventually be recipients of spiritual inspiration. It will be a religion of invocation and evocation, and it will be also a mental and scientific religion. At least the mind will be involved, and not just the astral-Buddhic connection. Also, there is the preparation for a revelation which will inaugurate the new era and set the note for the New World religion. And even of greater importance, the first one is the reaction of the hierarchy itself to the new relationship established between it and Shambhala, and we rarely think of that because the masters are looking in two directions simultaneously, and they're involved in the Gemini process in doing this. And the second activity is one leading towards a much closer relationship between hierarchy and humanity, and this we often think about. That's sort of the first part of the Antagarana, and the second part relates hierarchy to Shambhala. So this will lead to the externalization of the ashrams and the coming new revelation. Here is the second of the illustrations, very beautiful, representing here the soul and the personality. It's obvious who's the soul, and there you see the three glands within the head: the pineal, the pituitary, and the carotid, which is the means by which the soul controls its personality. Let's take a look at a little bit here of what Francis is saying about that. The Gemini does rule the hands, and thus the spiritual hand gestures called mudras. You see that the soul is holding up a kind of a mudra here, right? It's sometimes called the Trinity, this particular mudra, and it represents duality and then the Trinity. It's used to promote the circulation of prana in the etheric body. It's really a very secret science, and this is he has a quintessentially Geminian gesture. The raised first and second fingers indicate duality and proclaim the symbol of Gemini, and the three remaining fingers describe a circle, suggesting circulation, and sometimes the Trinity is involved, and you have the thumb there as well. So in this month's image, Francis says it's all about the freedom of the two. The soul is seen stimulating the primary triangle of centers in the mind and brain here, especially in this illustration, of its personality, reflection, by means of this mudra. How powerful these mudras are, they're kept very secret, really, in many respects. They're full power. With respect to this triangle, the Tibetan tells us the pineal, pituitary, and carotid glands are objective correspondences of the three energy centers through which the soul controls its physical vehicle. Where the relation is close between the three glands, as is increasingly the case where disciples are concerned, a triangle of circulatory energies is always established, and these three energies evoke the appearance of the third eye within the center of the head, and they are much used in the healing practice, and all of this is coming into fuller flower around the time of the third initiation. The presence of the monad in this illustration is indicated by the triangularly enclosed eye to remind us that the soul is the vehicle, that is the triangle of the monad, the eye, and that in Gemini this energy can be channeled through the hands. And you see here, we make this illustration just a little bigger. You'll see that the triangularly enclosed eye is very much there, right there in the hand, the eye within the triangle. Okay, so in a way, the soul itself is considered to be the heart center of the monad, and the monad is akin to the third eye of the planetary logos. Through that collection of monads, the planetary logos can see into his planetary manifestation. The six-pointed star is involved here in this third sign. It's a major sign of duality, and the relevant geometry includes the numbers 2 and 3, interestingly. The Tibetan develops this in his chapter. Gemini forms with each of the pairs of opposites in the zodiac a third factor, powerfully influencing the other two constellations, and thus forms with them certain grades of zodiacal triangles. Well, you know, it would be like this: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Aries, Libra, Gemini, Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, and I'm going to skip Gemini for a moment, Cancer, Capricorn, Gemini, and so forth. But when you deal with Gemini itself, the great mediating sign Pisces, also a powerful second-ray sign, just the way Gemini is the mediating factor forming the triangles. So the science of triangles is the main science in esoteric astrology, and Gemini, the 2, helps to create the 3. Okay, so these are the synthesized potencies, and they give what's called the freedom of the 2. The 2 opposing signs become, in a sense, united, and then you get a six-pointed star where originally there was a 12. 6 forces are meeting in Gemini, and for this reason the double triangle is one of the subjective symbols of this sign. So It's connected with the essential dualism of this sign. It is King Solomon's seal, and this is one of the signs that shows the intersection between the higher and the lower triangle. The three glands, yes, we discussed that. And here, the three glands gives us the activation of the etheric head centers, and this is really the high spiritual development of man when this is completely undertaken. The eye of the Father, representing the will aspect and monadic aspect, is associated with the 1,000-petaled lotus. One wonders if it's, not 972 petals, and this is just a rounding off, but perhaps. And through it, the pineal gland, we talked upper left in the month's image. DK tells us about this, the downflow of egoic energy, the result of the awakening of the centers through meditation and spirituality of life, impinges upon the pineal gland, and in the course of years, gradually increases its secretion, enlarges its form, and starts it into a new cycle of activity. And I think many of us are involved in that stimulation of the pineal gland, which is the midway spot, which is neither dry nor wet, which must be the place whereon the magician's feet are set, and from where he can control all that is going on in the white magical process. Then, of course, the pituitary gland, it's connected with the ajna center. It's related to the right eye, the eye of the sun, and corresponds to the love, wisdom aspect, Buddhi, and the hierarchy. So when pineal and pituitary become active, a radiant field is created, the light of the inner sun. And I suppose the carotid gland helps with that as well, when there's a true circulation there between the three centers and the three representative glands. And here is the carotid, corresponding to the left eye of Manas, the eye of the mother, and it's the third aspect. So energy from the spirit aspect, the first or father aspect, pours down through the head center associated with the pineal gland to the ajna center, pituitary, combining personality energy and soul energy, and then by an act of will is projected down the spinal column via the alta major. So it's all very occult here, and you will get this, you can read this later because it will be recorded, or you can find the places where this is found in the books. So that's what we're trying to do, to bring into relation these three. Sometimes it's difficult to know, excuse me, whether, this little drink here, whether Gemini should be called a 2 or a 3. It is the third sign and has a third potency connected with it. But it's also the major powerful sign on the mutable cross for the second ray. So you combine Jupiter with Gemini where it is now, and you get a very strong second ray vibration. We have Venus here, and in the illustration, in the image, there is a pattern representing the cyclic movement of Venus. It's a fivefold pattern, and Venus is the Earth's alter ego, and it's true supplementary and complementary planet. I've always found that an interesting statement. I've always thought rather of Venus as the supplementary planet, making the 180-degree angle and therefore representing opposition, and that Mars is more the complementary planet at making a complementary angle or a square, and hence creating much difficulty. But anyway, this is my impression. The DK says that Venus is both. You have thus established a double dual relationship, that of Gemini itself, that is the two brothers, Castor and Pollux, and then the Earth and Venus. And if we take a closer look at the illustration, the image, we will see, let's see, how big can I make that? We will see that the image of the five-pointed star and the idea of the Venus and Earth relationship is here on the robe of the soul, who should be identified, of course, with the number 5. Oh, there's a lot in this image, definitely, and there's so much in Gemini. I've just been working on the Gemini chapter in creating these esoteric astrology adventures, and I think it's a very rich explanation that the Tibetan gives us, and one of the more abstract and energy related in terms of systemic and cosmic energies. Gemini as a whole is related to the etheric body and is the custodian of conditioning energy and the intermediary between soul and body. Now, when it's related to the etheric body, it's not only the systemic etheric body and our own, our own etheric body, but it's related to the cosmic ethers, just the way Aquarius is. And so both Mercury and Uranus are bringing through these higher energies in what we call the process of etheric substitution and a general vitalization for which the term resurrection stands. We talked about that the other night, and the livingness and the life more abundant, which pours forth from Aquarius, and I would say also from Gemini, from the cosmic ethers of the Buddhic, atomic, monadic, and logoic planes. So it is a great sign of vitalization. And I'm sure you've been feeling that, you know, and it's right in the middle of the day for some of you. So World Invocation Day is going on, and I think you can feel this vitalization which wears the veils thin, makes them transparent, makes them as if they were not, dissolves them, so that we all come into that kind of communication which ultimately we can call communion. And we know our oneness, we know our unity. The Gemini, for all of its diversity, is a great sign for linking up all of the apparently differentiated parts until their unity is absolutely known. So let us try to cultivate that in the, you know, what is it, it's about 7 hours remaining until the full moon. Okay, fluidity, recognition of duality, and soul control, these are the keynotes of this. So thank you, Francis, for your images, beautiful images and meaningful images, and for your text explanations and the quotations, relevant quotations from Master DK. Okay, I know, friends, I'm using Mercury. I'm speaking a little bit fast. I know that, but you know, there's a lot to get in a short time, I think. So if you want to study this later, of course you can. Well, here we are then. We are coming now to the meditation itself. We are in, this is the festival of ASALA, the festival of goodwill, the festival of the Christ, and we are in a period within the 12 hours before the full moon when, at least in those old days, and maybe even now, masters like Master DK, and Master DK especially, were alert for the approach of their disciples. Getting my glasses a little cleaned here. Alert to those who might be approaching inwardly and reinforcing the sense of soul contact and group contact. So let us be aware that what we do now may be seen by the supervising higher lives, and they may be in a position to respond evocatively to our invocation, because that's really what we're doing here. Okay, friends, now we get into our meditation. This day of safeguarding, and I think for some of you that full moon's going to be tonight. It's just going to be a wonderful time to celebrate that in meditation. So we remember that we are not what we seem to be. And we do recognize our other self, our friend, as it were. Pythagoras said, a friend is another self. But in this case, it's the lower self that we have for so many years identified with. So really, what are we? We are the soul in incarnation. We are a unit of consciousness, of being consciousness, and we are immersed within the world of the senses, within the world of sentiency. We're in the world of the lower mind, that tiny unit of consciousness which we are, which can expand eventually to embrace the entire universe on the day be with us, that is presently immersed and identifies itself normally with the instrument. But we know that we are something more. And so, as the sense of being the instrument fades out and being consciousness itself and being, pure being, fades in, we find ourselves as if in the presence of another world. That world, of course, is right here, not elsewhere. And in that world, the light appears. All is illumined, and the unitive love appears. And the sense of sacrificial will appears, because it's as if our consciousness is now immersed within the field of the egoic lotus. And gradually a great synthesis, including all things, also appears. And we realize our soul-to-soul communion in the great soul field. All of us who are now meditating, and other groups who are meditating and preparing to meditate, and the hierarchy itself, of course, intensifying their point of tension as we approach the full moon. With all this, we are coming into communion. The union, the word union is in communion. It's the group yoga. And we include in this sense of communion all the members of the new group of world servers, imagining them wherever they may be. And all the men and women of goodwill as points of brighter light amidst many points of dimmer light, when one considers all of humanity. Communion with the men and women of goodwill, as if they were all here. We were touching them in soul and reaching out to all human beings in the body, out of the body, the billions, as if there is a mysterious oneness, a mysterious communion between all souls. However much there may be conflict, friction on the outer level of ignorance, on the level of soul, that is dispelled. And it is as if we can say, naught is but me, when we contemplate this relationship, the greater me, the greater I. Naught is but me. One being, including the lower and higher kingdoms of nature, where this great substanding one which we are pervades. If at this time we could even master this one little mantra, naught is but me, what a great step forward it would represent. Try to carry that with you as the hours approach and in the days following, as you think of right relations. I serve my brother, I serve the one. Naught is but me. Who am I serving anyway? The greater self, which I am. Just words at first, but one day, no longer just words. So here we are, focused upon the plane of mind, focused within the head's clear light. We, the group, stand on both the lower mental plane, the higher level of it, and also the sense of being on the higher mental plane, but first the mental unit, strengthening the mental unit, the group mental unit, the center of personality and the center of the lower mind, reaching as if to the group soul. this point of tension, this point of concentration, so stimulated by this very mental sign in some ways, Gemini, the Mercury, the Venus stimulating this mental unit, and the Earth sometimes standing for the mental unit in the larger picture of the solar logos. And from the soul, the group soul, we strengthen our intention, with the will of the soul. Together, the will to initiate of the first ray, the will to unify of the second ray, the will to evolve of the third ray, the will to harmonize of the fourth ray, the will to act of the fifth ray, the will to cause of the sixth ray, the will to express of the seventh ray. And so the basis for our Antakarana is empowered, and it is as if it is soul-infused. We draw up the lower personality energies into it, and we have the soul energies strengthening it, and there we are, focused together as the basis of our Antakarana. This rainbow bridge, this bridge of multicolored light. We can imagine this, of course, each one of us, in the colors of our soul ray and personality ray at first. Red for the first ray, indigo the second, green for the third, yellow for the fourth, orange for the fifth, rose for the sixth, and violet for the seventh. So we visualize the individual bridge first, as if departing from this tiny mental unit which has been empowered by contact with the soul. Our two colors, or indigo if we do not think we really know the rays, indigo will do. And this Antakarana, it holds quality. One can feel that quality. And it is imagined reaching, as it were, in imaginary space to the monastic permanent atom, and thus the higher mental field, the Buddhic permanent atom, and thus the intuitional field or vehicle, the Atmic permanent atom, and thus the field of spiritual will, into the impersonal sphere that is beyond even the causal body, beyond all we have accumulated through personal labor, and, in fact, reaching into part of the planetary logos, a reflection of the mind of God, the love of God, the will of God, reflected onto the cosmic physical plane from the higher cosmic planes. And finally, our bridge into the blue-white diamond, symbolically, of the monad, at the center of which resides that which was never born and will never die, pure being. Our bridge, and the bridge of all our brothers and sisters, the multicolored bridges, all of them, forming a great cone upward toward the blue-white diamond, or inward towards the sphere, if we will, towards the blue-white diamond. We pause in this visualization. Together we are invoking our higher nature. And to intensify this, we will imagine the projection of a radiant beam of living light, perhaps white light, from the group mental unit along all bridges, anchoring in the blue-white diamond of the monad. We will project on the Om while we inwardly affirm the second ray word of power. I see the greatest light. The living bridge. The individual bridge, the group bridge, living, energized, reciprocal, because to this projection there is always an answer from the higher worlds. And so our highest nature is united with the lowest. The highest and the lowest meet in this case. And as a group we are open to impression from the impersonal worlds. These worlds in which the masters focus their consciousness all the time. This is where they work, and this is what we can touch occasionally, and more as we build the Antakarana. And especially we can approach as a group. It's better to approach as a group. Especially Shambhala as a group. And so, since the Buddha is so powerfully connected with this Gemini festival, inasmuch as the Christ preaches his last sermon at the time of the Gemini Full Moon, apparently, according to Leadbeater in the Pali language, we will express our solidarity through salutation with these greater lights. This is an expression of co-creativity, standing by and with the great elder brothers, standing with them in spiritual being. This is what we're doing when we salute, offer our salutations. It's not devotion, it's affirmation. So, on the second ray note again, salutations to the Lord Buddha, the Lord of Light, the Lord of Wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Lord Maitreya, the master of all masters, the teacher alike of angels and of men, the one to whom this festival is dedicated. Salutations to the three masters with whom we most closely work, M, K, H, and DK. Salutations to the Master M, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master KH, the head of the second ray ashram, which prepares most for the reappearance of the Christ. Salutations to the Master DK, who has given us the teaching of the Blue Books, and whose task it is to prepare aspirants for initiation. Salutations to your own Master as you conceive him to be or know him to be. Salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of the planet, the Great White Brotherhood. And in this alignment, our imaginative thought rises toward Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. And as a group only, with deepest reverence and in all humility, we attempt to attune to the presence of the Lord of Shambhala, Sanat Kumara, the great sacrifice, the highest example of the teaching ray on our planet, the greatest of the saviors on our planet. Attuning to his purpose, to his will, as much as we can faintly understand it. So that we can become a will-inspired, will-driven group, and so that all the world's servers can know something of this will and carry out through the plan this high purpose, which is to bring light and love and power, spiritual power, to the world of matter form. And inwardly, a long, silent Om, as we imagine the group, the world's servers, and in fact really all humanity, imbued with the energy of the King. So we may truly stand in spiritual being, in group formation, inspired from the cosmic ethers where Shambhala is found. It is as if we, a group, meditating group, are brought together into one compressed point of light, point of love, point of spiritual power. We are so close. In fact, we are the same thing. Above the golden pathway we hover. As that great symbol, the golden pathway leads into the center of an indigo sun. Which is in a way the gateway to the higher worlds. And we seek greater intimacy now as we attempt to come en rapport with energies which come from beyond our planet altogether. So the golden path shortens and we move with it. It shortens, it retracts, it enters and disappears into the indigo disk, and so do we as a group. Imagine then being within the indigo disk together. A great second ray vibration pervades us. And as if the consciousness of Master DK pervades us, he being such an expert in the planetary, zodiacal, and cosmic energies, so that we can make these energies live for us, not just vague abstractions, but living energies that we can touch. We will work with Mercury, Venus, and the Earth at first, recognizing the pairs of opposites through Mercury, uniting them through Venus, expressing them within the field of the Earth, the hierarchical ruler of Gemini, to which so much is contributed, the Earth becoming a sacred planet under the impress of Mercury, Venus, and Gemini, with the other pole, Sagittarius, also involved, and of course, redemptive Pisces. As we attune with these high planetary energies, we are contributing to the sacralization, the making sacred of our planet. Mercury, which carries messages between the poles with speed and light, we are the bridge, and we are both poles of the bridge. And one day the bridge will retract into the solar sphere. This will be mastership. No longer reaching from here to there, but centered there, which has become here. So Mercury always connecting us with our higher objective, exchanging substances from the higher to lower and lower to the higher, the planet of invocation, stimulating evocation. We, the group, need Mercury. Let its yellow light pervade us. So much of our studies, our meditation and so forth, are Mercurian in nature. Restoring sight unto the blind, that's what Mercury does. Connecting all the pairs of opposites. And Venus, the esoteric ruler, the rose of Venus, or the indigo of Venus, because really, monadically, ultimately, it probably is a great ray tube planet, just the way Mercury belongs ultimately, I believe, to the third ray, fusing, drawing together, the merging of the angel and the man, and the merging of the monad and the angel man. Ending separateness, beauty and truth together, soul infusion at first, for us in the group, and for all eventually, certainly for the servers, the new group of world servers ruled by Taurus Venus. The illumination of Venus, the greater light of the higher brother. We need this, and let us act as if it pervades us, this fusion. The closeness of the angel, the solar fire in radiant light. Venus indicating the victory for humanity at this time, not Mars, but Venus. And then the earth, the hierarchical ruler, moving towards sacredness, the scene of redemption, and yet the scene of a very great will hidden in the monadic nature of our planet. We have to act it out right here on the earth. The highest must meet the lowest. All that we are above, we must express below, on the earth. The earth, the Kundalini of our solar system, one of the great Kundalinic planets, the base of the spine center eventually of our solar logos, And we are on this powerhouse of a planet where so much is being worked out to redeem the previous solar systemic energies, with Mercury, Venus, and Gemini and Sagittarius helping. May we contribute to that redemption. All of these in us, the group, in the servers, in the men and women of goodwill, in humanity as much as they can absorb, Mercury, Venus, the Earth. Here and now, accessible to us, usable by us. Our etheric body is filled with these, and our other vehicles too. But especially the etheric part of every one of the vehicles, the higher four subplanes, receiving. And receiving also, if we can, the great love wisdom of our solar God. We are sun units, solar units. And the highest part of us is that which finds its home within the sun. The great pervader of this solar system with love and wisdom. Search at our roots, and that's what we find. The great solar fire of the blue logos. Intimate to the sun, ultimately and factually. Intimate to the solar sphere, the heart of the sun and the central spiritual sun eventually to be registered. But right now, especially the heart of the sun. Into our heart center of every vehicle and into our egoic lotus, into our monad, the heart of the sun. Uniting us all in solar fellowship, in the brotherhood, the monadic brotherhood, ultimately. And pervaded as outposts of consciousness for the Master Decay, we reach towards Gemini. It is a constellation with which he is very identified as the messenger of the Masters. The light of interplay we will experience there. The line of light beams revealing that which opposes or the basic duality of manifestation, but the inseparable relationship between spirit and form, and the gradual fusing of all oppositions by the great second ray. The conscious light of relationship. And can we carry that into our relationships? These days, and maybe all days, the conscious light of relationship based upon the second ray of our solar logos of Gemini. It's soul relationship, it's not form. Into the worlds of form that power must one day fail to penetrate. From the integration formula of the second ray, but fusion of consciousness and realization of identicality of being underlying that fusion. Gemini, bringing the second ray in through its planets, the fourth, fifth, and third rays, Gemini, through which the forces of reconstruction work, rebuilding human civilization and the planet according to the plan, revealed by the forces of restoration, and the entire process pursued in an illumined manner within the light shed by the forces of enlightenment, really redeeming our planet through light and love. Every time we sign our letters light and love, we are invoking Gemini, invoking the solar logos. We are invoking Venus and Mercury as representatives, light and love. And now as a group together we ponder, what does it mean to you as you stand within your higher self? Whichever higher self that may be, whether the causal body, or the triad one day, or one day the monad, but for now, as if within the egoic lotus, I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I, the higher self, grow and glow. Let it be the energies of the waxing brother that feed our etheric body, pour through it, overcoming the lesser energies and the soul then present upon the physical plane. Pouring from us, even in dense matter, the present energies of the higher self, growing in light, the thrilling energies of being the higher self, no longer identified with the tomb, with the sarcophagus, just the way the image showed us the great sun with a series of eyes looking down along a kind of antikarana at the lower self. This is the stream of recognition, with us identified at the very center of the egoic lotus, this higher sunflower of consciousness and being, where we should be living. I recognize my other self. And I pull it forward toward me, magnetically incorporating it as a sub-ray of my quality as the soul. And it does not shine with its own elemental light anymore. It shines instead with my light, the light of the soul. That which shines in us, which radiates, which becomes our aura, that is soul light now, soul energy. The soul will grow and the other will wane, but then will wax again, not with its own light, but with the reflected light of that which I am. I recognize my other self. And in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. And let it be so that for this full moon and the period following, we sense this higher growth of our true center of consciousness on the higher mental plane, at least for now. So as we walk through life and look at all things and the personality of all things and of ourselves, we do so from the position of the higher seer, who recognizes what the lower self actually is and can use it as an illumined instrument with its own light, not the elemental light. And this we sustain this now for hours, some hours to come, some 6.5 hours to come. And our focus now is on the brothers, the Christ and the Buddha, as we sustain our position in the waxing self that we are, the higher self. And they are the brothers in the light. For our planet, their spiritual union is all important, and their mode of cooperation astonishing and effective on our planet for redemption. The union of all polarities, the East and the West in this case, of love and wisdom in this case. And what an amazing thing it is that the Christ, having now, since 1966, assumed the triadal vestures of the Buddha, with all the riches stored there by this great Lord who may have even come from the previous solar system, the Christ accessing these, he preaches before the assembled hierarchy the last sermon of the Buddha. And we have warmed up with some sections of that sermon, the overcoming of the body's cravings, the overcoming of sensation, the overcoming of the agony caused by certain ideas and reasoning and feeling, the psychic nature. And now, as if we hear the Christ, Though he speaks in a different language, the idea is there. We hear the Christ with some of the Buddha's words. The main theme, of course, being self-reliance. A first-rate personality of the Buddha, self-reliance. He worked out his own salvation. And thus it must be for all those who would join the ranks of hierarchy. But his salvation, of course, was much higher. He needed to achieve the 6th initiation, and he did. A super illumination from the cosmic mental plane. But he spoke instead to the disciples, the accepted disciples, the arhats. He spoke to them. And here the Christ will remind the assembled hierarchy of the importance of these words, not only for all those who are to be served, but for the masters themselves. And so the Buddha's words, those who, either now or after I am dead, shall be a lamp unto themselves, relying upon themselves only, and not relying upon any external help, but holding fast to the truth as their lamp, and seeking their salvation in the truth alone, shall not look for assistance to anyone besides themselves. It is they, Ananda, among my bhikshus, who shall reach the very topmost height. But they must be anxious to learn. My age is now full ripe. My life draws to its close. I leave you. I depart, relying on myself alone. Be earnest then, O brethren, holy, full of thought. Be steadfast in resolve. Keep watch o'er your own hearts. Who wearies not, but holds fast to this truth and law, shall cross this sea of life, shall make an end of grief. When the light of gnosis has dispelled the darkness of ignorance, when all existence has been seen as void, void and without substance, peace ensues. When life draws to an end, peace which seems to cure a long, long illness at last. Everything, whether stationary or movable, is bound to perish in the end. Be ye therefore mindful and vigilant. The time for my entry into Nirvana has now arrived. These are my last words. As if the Buddha, through the Christ, has been speaking precisely to us. We take it deeply into heart and mind. One means of salvation is here given. It is the way of the very high third ray, augmented by the second. And the Christ gives the way of love. But in the stillness you can feel the weight of these words, the essential advice of self-reliance, because who or what is the self anyway? It knows all. And thus we can learn to stand in spiritual being with the great elder brothers, the Buddha and the Christ, and our gratitude towards them is immense. But they don't want our gratitude. They want our assimilation and expression of what they have taught. And so, with this idea, we will imagine that the Christ and his hierarchy are sounding together the entire great invocation. And this on World Invocation Day for so many of us, we've been practicing this now. We have imagined each verse leading up to this point, sounded by the Christ alone and then with his hierarchy, and now the whole thing. This immense invocation for power and light released by Sanat Kumara in 1945, when the Christ affirmed that he would be appearing on the lowest planes, not just the etheric, but embodied. And then, with that sacrifice, the great invocation was released. And so, let us imagine that the great Lord and all the members of the hierarchy are sounding this great invocation together, attune sensitively, carefully, and realize what this can mean. great inner event occurs with that sounding. And if we imagine them intoning the Om together, how powerful that is, their intention to externalize a most difficult task it is for them, but yet they look at the field of service and together they intend to externalize for the purpose of planetary redemption. And so the Christ is focusing, as it were, all the aspiration of humanity in his being. He's the leader of his people, humanity, the eldest in a great family of brothers. It's as if the hierarchy revolves and turns towards the Buddha, offering that aspiration to the Buddha who resides in Shambhala and to Shambhala itself, making the link on behalf of humanity, the Christ and his hierarchy. All the upward yearning and striving focused in him, condensed, sent, and the evocation must come. And so we imagine the full response of the love of Shambhala, inspired by the Solar Logos, flowing as a result of the Christ's invocation on behalf of all of us, flowing into both hierarchy and humanity and creating a great planetary triangle through which the saving force can flow, the energies of divine solar love. And all of this is taking place under the aegis of Gemini, because Gemini is the head of the cosmic Christ. The source of all that is transpiring on this World Invocation Day and at the time of the Gemini Full Moon, the source of the great downflow. And here the actors are the Buddha and the Christ and the hierarchy, and the recipients, humanity, and all the other kingdoms. A great alignment from this most prominent of the immutable signs, Gemini, through the Solar Logos, through Mercury, Venus, into Shambhala, into our Earth, into the monad, the triad, the soul of every one of us and all humanity. This is the alignment, and it is happening now. And intensifying as we move towards the actual full moon. The scope of this alignment is tremendous. And we should have it in mind as it pours through the top of our heads and into every aspect of our energy system. a great connection, a great communion. Bringing to us the realization that we are all indeed one. And in serving our brother, we can serve the one. So let us continue on World Invocation Day, reinforcing the great invocation, realizing that all our fellow human beings are really brothers and sisters in the one, living that in the livingness of resurrection, in the love of the whole, unified contact and communion. And now on this day, and together, because it is the day of all days when the invocation should be sounded, we will together sound the great invocation. In alliance with the hierarchy, in alliance with the Christ and the Buddha, in alliance with Mercury, Venus, with the Solar Logos, with the brothers Pollux and Castor, with those kinds of alignments, we sound the invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Friends, we have just about 6 hours before the actual full moon takes place. Maybe a little less. 4:24 and 55 seconds in the morning GMT. Just about 6 hours from now. So the energies are strong. The connection is real, the unity is real, the hierarchy is present, the lines of communication are open, and the great energies are flowing from the higher ethers to the lower. Let us take full advantage of that. Let us intensify our energies towards the full moon tomorrow morning, starting at 6 o'clock here and 3 a.m. GMT. Tuya will be leading an exact moment meditation service with music. It'll be a broadcast, and you have the link. If you don't have the link, write to Brett, and I'm sure he appreciates me saying this, but he's still awake, and he can give you the link for that. Thank you for being here tonight and for this series of 4 meditations, really. And now let us do all we can to participate fully, joyously, beautifully in the actual Gemini full moon moment. Keep the channel open. Use the Antakarana. The energy is flowing. So, good night here from Finland, everybody. And let's stay together and do the work. Thank you.